that whole concept around transmitting belief, I think, is very important. And so for coaches, we've got to be aware of the power that our words hold. Anyway, so a little bit more about myself. I grew up on a farm northwest of Cochrane and split time between there and the Calgary community of North Haven. And I played shinny on the outdoor rinks as a kid, back in the days when, it's 50 a side and nobody knows what side you're on. There's a multitude of jerseys. And, if you're little and young and not very good, you don't get the puck much, you chase. And you're the kid that gets to, plunge into the snow drifts in your skates to go get the pucks when it gets shot over. Because we didn't have any chicken wire or anything around the ends of the glass. So the good old days, and there's a lot of, contextual game-like experience there when you're playing shinny against, 20, 30, 40, 50 other people. And it's basically every man for themselves. And the first time I remember walking into the rink at Max Bell in Pee Wee, I think it was, I remember just being in awe. You're a 12-year-old kid, a tiny kid, and I walk in, and I mean, we've been playing outdoors, even league games, like we rarely had an indoor game. And the Max Bell Arena, the size of the dressing room itself was, I'd never been in anything that big. And then the long walk out to the players' bench, which, seemed like a really long players' bench. You take that first step on the ice, and it's like, oh my God, I've got to skate all the way up and down here. Like, that's incredible. So that's kind of the era that I grew up in, because I'm a kid of the 60s. So anyway, that was another fond memory for me as a kid. All of the outdoor hockey, all of the unstructured play, the pond hockey, playing on frozen lakes, was practicing by yourself, that sort of thing. Anyway, fast forward, bumped around, played a little bit of junior, finished up in Spokane. As I said earlier, I had a series of very hard authoritarian style coaches, and we were kind of in the predating the Graham James era. There was a lot of abuses of power, sexual abuses going on in my day, and unfortunately I had to go through a lot of that stuff. Like I have friends who played for some of these sexual predators, just horrible times, and really just having to go through that stuff, and not even the that sexual abuse side. I'm talking more of the the power that the coaches seem to hold over you if you wanted to get to the next level. You'd do anything, and they would be, physically be abusive, verbally, emotionally, that sort of thing. A lot of bullying from their behalf. So even though I loved the game of hockey, really I found that over the next 5-6 years, it took a toll on me mentally and emotionally. And I wasn't a great player. I really wasn't going to have a professional career by any sorts, but I was hoping to go on and play a little bit of university. And I skated with Lethbridge and U of C a little bit, but I was never good enough to play, so I packed it in. I tried a little bit of senior hockey, but that was so and it was just, it was like right at a slap shot. It was just, I think I played 3 games and I quit. So that's the context of my background, and it kind of, by sharing that, I hope it paints a little bit of a picture for who I am as a person, and my perspective on coaching and sport and how I see the world. So we fast forward from there. Today I would say, I see myself now as an international sport consultant. I finished my undergrad in psychology and sociology. I've done my level 4 and 5 high performance coaching diploma through the National Coach Institute, and a master's degree in education with a specialty in coaching. And I'm completing my PhD in sport coaching, and it's a sociological focus. So as well as an international sport consultant, I see myself as a sociologist. And the last few decades, I've been coaching now 40 years after I finished playing. But I'm also, the last couple of decades have had some great opportunities internationally, and had that ability to experience working in different cultures and in cross-cultural leadership. And part of that process is working within organizations and helping them to clarify their own purpose through strategic planning, facilitation, and mentorship. And then a little bit of a separate hat to that, somewhat related, but I also been working as a coach developer, and I heard the term pracademic, so a combination between practical and academic. So a lot of the stuff that I do is, I read a lot of journal articles as part of going through the PhD, and I try to translate the cutting edge research into game-based learning strategies to drive game performance. And ultimately, after all that preamble, I finally settled on identifying my own coaching philosophy back in the day, and I've continued to distill it down to 3 simple things, and it's fun, learn, and return. So I want to make sure that the people that I work with, whether or not they're athletes or coaches or sport administrators, whoever's involved in the game, is we're going to have fun, and hopefully the people that I'm working with are going to learn something, and then they're going to want to come back to the rink. They're going to want to come back to the classroom, that sort of thing. And so also within that journey, I've taught junior and senior high kids in sport and sport performance, Hockey Canada skill academies for 13 years, and I think I'm about 7 years of teaching post-secondary in the faculty of kinesiology at a couple different universities. So that's my backdrop, Wally, and it leads into your first question of how did I become involved with the IHF. And it's always been a dream of mine. I used to go for coffee with Paul Carson a couple times a year, and I think I told him this at one point, that I'd sure love to somehow get involved with the IIHF, the International Ice Hockey Federation. And we went for coffee, I don't know, I think it was around 2015 or 16. I asked him again, and it was always in the back of my mind. And then in 2017, Paul said to me, well, hey, we can nominate somebody to send them to Viramäki, Finland for a development program. There's 3 different streams that run there: leadership, administration, and coach development. And we could send you, and you could work as a coach developer with a bunch of international coaches. And they hold this camp every year in July in Viramäki. So I had the good fortune to get nominated by Hockey Canada, and ended up going over there, and I got to work with a team of, I think there was a U16 male side, and in our dressing room, if we had 22 kids, 20 skaters, 2 goalies, I think we had 16 distinct native languages. And then within the coaching staff, the trainer, and the manager, we probably had 3 or 4 different native languages. And it was like that on every team. So it was quite a fascinating work environment. And I had played overseas in Finland and Sweden in high school as part of a touring kind of a junior side. And we went over, played a bunch of exhibition games. And I remember, that was maybe in the early 80s. And I remember the time thinking, never in a million years did I ever think that I would have the opportunity to play and to represent, I guess in essence, Canada. It wasn't a national team, but just a local team. But we were representing Canada, playing against like Jari Kurri's old junior team, Jokerit, and Kent Nilsson's old team in Sweden. And we got our butts handed to us. I mean, they were so much better than us. But that was the first time. I was about 17. And I thought, man, this is great. Like, the fact that a person from Canada could actually, go overseas and travel and experience a different culture through sport, like, boy, that opened up my eyes. And, I like to say that my passport is a ticket to adventure. So, that kind of planted the seed. And then through my hockey career, when it ended, and then Paul Carson nominated me through Hockey Canada to go over there for that for my first time with the IHF. It was a real honor, and boy, Wally, I learned a lot, and it was like, coming full circle, a dream realized, being able to work for the IHF and get to put on one of their golf shirts and track suits and represent them. It was sure a thrill for me. And I still stay in touch with the entire coaching staff. I create a coaches community of practice through WhatsApp, and it's been very impactful for me, and hopefully for the other guys involved in it. We share ideas all the time and meet online like we're doing here now over video.